Thank everybody for attending today. I appreciate it. As you said, Brian Miller, Director, CEO, and co-founder of Astra Exploration. I'll be introducing you to what we think is one of the most interesting gold-silver plays in the space right now. I don't have time to go through in detail, but I'll touch briefly on the team. I would encourage you to go to the website and have a look at the bios of these people who are involved. Several major discoveries in their careers, several successful exits, a lot of value created for shareholders. Darcy Marud led one of the teams that discovered El Peñon. He discovered the Mercedes mine in Mexico. He helped build the Cerro Morro mine in Argentina. Charles Funk, CEO of Heliostar, was VP Exploration at Vizsla Silver when they discovered the Napoleon at Panuco. And Diego Guido discovered Pinguino deposit in Santa Cruz, globally recognized epithermal expert, particularly sought out for his expertise in the Deseado Massif. Roberto Alarcon Bittner, former in-house counsel at Yamana and Homestake, based in Santiago. This is the guy who knows how to get stuff done in South America. And Mahesh Leonaj, our CFO, also CFO at Vizsla Silver, formerly CFO at Mirasol, great experience in Argentina and Chile. I'd put our capital structure up against any one of our peer groups in the industry. Very tight capital structure, closely held. Michael Gentile is our largest shareholder at 18%. He's been a repeat investor over 5 series of financings with the company since we went public. Some other names, Peter Maroney, the guys at Mason Resources, that's Simon Marcotte, Peter Demooney, Fahad Al-Tamimi, Victor Cantori, that group. And then management and directors, we own about 15%. We've got a lot of money invested. We've got a lot of ownership. Collectively, in that group that I mentioned, about 80% total ownership, so about 20 to 25 million float public. Issued and outstanding 101 million shares, fully diluted 115, market cap of about 40 million bucks. This cash position was from June. Currently, we have about $1.5 million in the treasury. That's enough to fund us into 2026, and that funds the next program, drill program that we're looking to begin here in about 3 weeks. There's 3 projects in the portfolio, 2 in northern Chile, 1 in Argentina. I'm not going to be talking about the Chilean assets today just because the focus is in Argentina and I don't have time, but very good assets, high potential for discovery. They're just kind of on the back burner for the time being. But what we're talking about is southern Argentina, Deseado Massif, province of Santa Cruz, which is historically one of the most mining-friendly jurisdictions in Argentina. The Deseado Massif is perhaps the most well-endowed place in the world for epithermal gold-silver. It's host to several producing mines, including world-class deposits like Cerro Negro to the north of us and Cerro Vanguardia to the east. I'm going to start on La Manchuria just by zooming in real quick and talking about where it's historically been drilled. The previous company was looking for near-surface oxide resource, so they did some very dense drilling, mostly in the main zone that you see on the left. Eastern zone had far fewer drill holes, only 5. But they didn't drill this very deep. It was only drilled down to about 150 meters on average. So there was a lot of potential at depth, but some exceptional grades. Very narrow veinlets at surface, so they drilled this out into a bulk tonnage resource. Our theory from the beginning was that these thin veinlets coalesce into thicker, competent structures at depth, still carrying these exceptional grades. But some of the best results, as you can see, 20 meters at 10 gram gold plus 800 grams silver, 1.6 meters at 257 grams gold plus 4.2 kilos of silver, 4 meters at 26 gram gold plus 3.1 kilos of silver, 2 meters at 52 gram gold plus 3.2 kilos of silver, and then a table below it with several other high grades, lower relative, but very high in any case. It was also previously thought that this system terminated to the southeast. There are some cross-cutting faults. You see the veins oriented northwest to southeast. There are some small cross-cutting faults. It was also interpreted previously that some of the post-mineral volcanics earlier were interpreted as host rocks, so they expected to find veins in there. And when they drilled this to the southeast, they didn't hit veins. They concluded that the system had been faulted off. We proved otherwise with this first drill program. And one of the big takeaways was that this thing is open in every direction. Zooming out to the property boundary level now, the blue outline, that's the property boundary, about 5,600 hectares. All of the drilling that I just mentioned is in this tiny blue circle in the center. So you've got several kilometers in any direction to step out. The whole area is covered by post-mineral volcanics. So you have a big lava flow here to the left. You have post-mineral breccia far to the southeast, along a major structure. This unit has vein clasts in it, so that's indicative of veins at depth. This green circular area here is the andesite intrusion. This is the unit that was the heat source for the epithermal system, and it actually plunges to the southeast. So it's tipped up on the northern border. That's why we have the outcrop here. We have some high-grade rock samples on the northern border, and those veins plunge to the southeast. But with this first drill program, we demonstrated that there's potential to grow this laterally to the southwest under the volcanics, to the northwest along strike directly to the southeast, further southeast, as I mentioned, the vein clasts and the volcanics, and then there's two parallel corridors that show up in the geophysics to the northeast that are also coincident with high-grade surface samples. So some of the key takeaways, as I mentioned, we demonstrated that the vein system does continue along strike to the southeast. It dives underneath the volcanics. That post-mineral breccia that I mentioned, when you start out at the north, it's pretty thin. It gets thicker as you move to the southeast, and now it looks to be getting thin again the further southeast that you move. So it's got kind of a mushroom shape to it, thin, thick, thin. And I'll get to that in some further detail here, but it also looks like the best host rocks are also getting thicker. So not only is it open along strike, but it's opening in the vertical dimension as well. So these were the four target areas here. Target area 1 was perhaps the most important target. This was to test for vein extension to the southeast. Target area 2 was to test for parallel veins to the northeast. 3, the same concept but to the southwest. And 4 was to test the eastern zone. There was only 5 holes in the eastern zone, so we put 2 holes in it. The results, hole 107, this was a 75-meter step out, intersected 1.6 meters at 75 gram gold and 87 grams silver. Hole 110 was a step out along strike further to the southeast, had a very good looking vein, but no grade. The reason for that, this is a long section, so imagine you're standing on this point E here and looking to the southwest. This is the cross section. You'll see how this ore chute, so the pink unit and the yellow unit, the best host rock, the ore chute dives to the southeast. Hole 107 hit that. Hole 110 was drilled into the andesites. The andesites have veins in them, but they are not carrying grade. This blue unit is the post-mineral breccia. So that's why the previous operators missed. You can see that they drilled into this breccia. So we proved that this does extend to the southeast. And as I mentioned, it looks like this post-mineral breccia is getting thinner to the southeast again, and that also shows up in the geophysics. You can see the thickest portion of it here, and you can see it dissipating. So this opens that up for potentially several hundred meters to the southeast, both along strike and in vertical extent. Target area 2, hole 108 intersected 4.4 meters at 11.8 grams gold and over 2,800 grams silver. This was mostly in a single vein that was 1.4 meters wide, carried 35 grams gold and over 8,300 grams silver. Interestingly enough, this had been drilled previously near surface. You can see right here about 25 meters from surface. And as I mentioned, this thing was thin veinlets at surface, and we could actually see one evidence of this on surface, that these veinlets coalesce into thicker structures at depth. And that happened on the surface example in an elevation change of 100 to 150 meters. And so what we see here, they drilled some interesting results, 2 meters at 2 gram gold and 300 grams silver. That was in a series of veinlets that was up to 50 centimeters in thickness. 80 meters beneath that, we have a structure that's 1.4 meters thick and carrying some spectacular grades. This is open above here, beneath here, and along strike in both directions. This was a fantastic drill result. Hole 105 was a big step out, 150 meters to the southwest. We intersected 3 brand new veins, never before discovered, highlighted by 2 meters at almost 7 gram gold and almost a half a kilo of silver. Being the non-geologist, what I'm immediately thinking of is that hole 108 that I just showed you. Is this something, again, where you have these narrow veinlets at surface coalescing into something thicker and high grade at depth? Hole 113, again, 4 mineralized veins within 80 meters of surface, highlighted by 1.3 meters at 17 grams gold and 61 grams silver. All of these are open in every dimension. Again, a cross-section of hole 113, and you can see the orientation of these veins, again, look to be coalescing into something at depth. Real quickly here, the andesite unit I'll talk about. It was previously interpreted by the previous operators as well as us previously that this was one big continuous basement rock unit. It carries veins but not grade. So once the drill bits hit the andesite, you stop drilling. That was the end of the story. I'm going to show you here in a couple slides. There's been a significant discovery that I think could be quite important for the future of this project. Hole 112, there was a previous hole here that hit high grade. So we stepped back from that previous hole, we drilled underneath, we intersected that vein about 100 meters depth, 3 meters at 3.8 gram gold and 25 gram silver. But perhaps more importantly, at the top of that hole, 4 new parallel structures that created an interval of 4 meters at 7.6 grams and a trace of silver. Hole 114 was drilled and got into the andesites right away. Very nice looking vein that's actually outcropped at surface, but no grade. However, hole 114 drilled through the andesites and into a new host rock unit. So what we have here, instead of a continuous basement unit, is you have an andesitic intrusion that spreads out and forms sills and sandwiches host rock in between the andesites. So whereas it was previously determined that there was no opportunity beneath the andesites, we actually had 2 drill holes that drilled through the andesitic layers and into new host rock. So this opens up a whole new opportunity at depth. Hole 110, this is the hole that I mentioned, the deeper hole on that southeast extension. This actually drilled through an andesite layer here, and the very end of that hole got into a welded rhyolite tuff, which is typically a very good host rock for these systems. So it's still very early, but this could be a very important development. So just a quick summaries here, the next steps. We're fully funded for our next phase of drilling, which we're expecting to commence in about 3 weeks. We've been waiting on the winter weather conditions to subside. We have multiple high-quality drill targets from phase 1 drilling. We've got crews on the ground. We put out a news release this morning. We've got crews on the ground right now who are mapping, doing detailed mapping. We'll do some geophysics and some surveys. And we've received some very strong support and interest from the institutions as far as financing this thing. As I mentioned in the capital structure slide, one of the most important things we've done since we started this was building a capital structure by design. So what we're working on now is really vetting investors. We want the highest quality investors that share our long-term outlook for developing this into something that we think could be an asset that's sold to a producer. And I think perhaps the best summarization of phase 1 drilling, we gave Diego a budget of just over $1 million, and he converted that into over $30 million in market cap. And I think we're just getting started with this. Got a couple minutes for questions if anybody has any.
Any questions?
Yes.
There. Could you just wait till we have the microphone? So we can...
Yeah, I know Argentina can be challenging in terms of the regulatory and political environment, and that Santa Cruz is generally better than most provinces. How have the local authorities responded to your projects, and how's the permitting going?
Very well. To be perfectly honest, there's been an aggression as far as fast-tracking permitting. We applied for our permit, and this has historically been about a 6-month process. So we applied for it in November of last year. We received a response in December. They had a few extra questions. So we answered their questions, resubmitted. We had our permit in hand by, I think it was mid-March. So it was a very quick, and importantly too, there was about 2 months of continuous holidays during that time. So we have been working closely with the authorities. There is an urgency to get things permitted and into exploration, into production. Argentina's been very proactive as far as fast-tracking anything in the mining industry. It is still a bureaucratic process, but it's been a very good response, in our opinion.
If there isn't anyone else, then thank you very much.
Thank you.